Hey, have you guys noticed this? So, I'm putting together examples for the Hiram Abiff video, the official one I'm going to make. And this is a little funny thing that I don't know that a lot of people have noticed. So this is from Revelations of John the Elder. And he's describing the golden cube that comes down when, I guess, the Messiah is supposed to create heaven on earth. So you can see at the top, the angel explains to John that this city, this golden cube, is the bride of Jesus Christ. Her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal, and had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. On the east 3 gates, on the north 3 gates, on the south 3 gates, and on the west 3 gates. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and in them the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. Pay attention particularly to on the east 3 gates, on the north 3 gates, on the south 3 gates, and on the west 3 gates. Now, like I said, this is from Revelations of John the Elder. And now let's go to the molten sea. This is talking about a cast sea that Hiram Abiff supposedly created. And here is actually a depiction of it, an artist's rendering. But there's a description down here. Note the cows at the bottom. Beasts of burden. Remember, I've made videos about that, how the this sea of light is often represented with beasts of burden, like horses or cattle. So down here, let's find the description of what Hiram made. No, it's up here more. You know what will be easier? Let's do this. Find in page 3. No, 3. Here we go, right here. Then he made the sea of cast metal. So I'm just reading this center passage. 23. 23. 2 and 3 equal 5. Then he made the sea of cast metal. It was round, 10 cubits from brim to brim, and 5 cubits high, and a line of 30 cubits measured its circumference. 24. Under its brim were gourds for 10 cubits, compassing the sea all around. The gourds were in 2 rows, cast with it when it was cast. 25. It stood on 12 oxen, 3 facing north, 3 facing west, 3 facing south, and 3 facing east. The sea was set on them, and all their rear parts were inward. 26. Its thickness was a handbreadth, and its brim was made like the brim of a cup, like the flower of a lily. It held 2,000 baths. So, pay attention again here. It stood on 12 oxen. And actually, It stood on 12 oxen, 3 facing north, 3 facing west, 3 facing south, and 3 facing east. The sea was set on them, and all their rear parts were inward. Now remember, this is the story of Hiram Abiff and the molten sea that he cast. that's interesting that there's that connection between the story of Hiram Abiff and the revelation of John the Elder. Another thing that I'm pointing out, I'm focusing on for the video, this is sort of it's a teaser, is this idea of casting, taking force of nature, taking nature and the ocean, it's typically symbolized as the ocean when you want to have something to represent a force of nature, or maybe a hurricane, a storm, something along those lines, but quite often it's the ocean. Women are likened to both forces of nature and the ocean quite often. And we see this. I'm going to find more examples for the final video, but we see this, first of all, in the Hiram Abiff legend. He's trying to keep crystallized in this one form forever, keep it bound, if you will, the force of life itself. Think of it as, again, if the oversoul was this sort of sea of light and all of our souls are these little lights making it up, then each one of our little lights is sort of bound by the material of our bodies. You could look at it that way. So, it's this idea, again, it loops back into the sea of light, this mother of light that's supposed to be this oversoul that all of our souls come from. Really, I want to focus on this idea that I'm seeing in the legends that these people seem to gravitate towards and share with each other, that are passed around these secret societies that seem to be drawn upon, particularly to use in their little coded messages to each other. They use this kind of symbolism. So this theme that I'm seeing running throughout is keeping this form crystallized, trapped. So we see this not just with Hiram Abiff. This is really sort of a deep dive into the psychology of these men and I'm sure some women in this network. So we have here, for example, this, I won't click on the link, but you can see at the top in the description of that top website, it's Humbert tells Lolita she should be nicer to him and that her thighs should be only 17 and a half inches around. I think more like he tells her that her thigh should not exceed such a specific tore. And I intend to show, let me see if I can find her. Well, I'd have to pull her up on YouTube, but there's a great Yale course given by a professor, and I can't remember her name now, I apologize, where she breaks down the book Lolita, and she does actually mention that this specific passage, this part of the book Lolita, written by Vladimir Nabokov. Again, for those of you who don't know, Lolita is about a 48-some-year-old man having an inappropriate sexual relationship with his 12-year-old stepdaughter. And there's a part in that book where Humbert Humbert, the man, is driving around with Lolita and telling her, practically demanding of her, you must not get any bigger. You must stay this size and this way forever. So he's demanding of a young girl that she stay a young girl forever. She cannot become a woman. She cannot grow up. She cannot grow old. She cannot have experiences. She cannot lose this certain kind of innocence that he wants to keep for himself. So we see that again with the Hiram Abiff, this idea of keeping this thing crystallized, this force of nature, this life force, this innocence, keeping it frozen and trapped. and crystallized in a single form. This can take on, so we see this with Dr. Freeze, Mr. Freeze, and his wife. So you can see here, Mr. Freeze is a villain in the Batman comics. I'm sure many of you know that he does all his villainy because he's trying to find a cure for his wife. Until then, she's trapped in cryostasis, a cryogenic tube. So, and then there's, no, I don't want that. Let's back to the cell. So there's a few references to this in this movie. We see it here with Jennifer Lopez. There's one point where she's in a scene where she's in this golden box. Remember the golden cube from the Revelations of John. She's in this golden cube. And again, to give you some notion of how this idea that, it's opposites, from, between this world and the other world, the opposite, the world on the other side of the veil. In this scene in the movie, Jennifer Lopez, when she finds herself momentarily trapped in this box, she's just dove into this mind of this serial killer creeper guy, and when she's in his mind, she's trapped in this box, and then the box opens and she actually falls upward. So it's this strange, again, everything's sort of flipped the opposite. We see other images like this. So the serial killer in this movie, what he would do is he would kidnap women and then trap them in a little glass box and have it slowly fill up with water. And eventually they would drown. And then he would, do this with them. He would bleach them so they would be very white. And then inside of his mind, when the therapist is jumping in his mind to try to figure out where he hid one of the girls. It's a sci-fi flick, guys, but you guys should watch it. It's worth watching at least once. So note the theme of these women. She's walking through his mind and she's seeing all these different sort of displays in his mind where he has all of the victims, all of the women he killed in their own little sort of setting display case. And they're all wearing red collars and they're all white, as if they've been made albino, like white and gold hair. And the police find his victims like this, typically with a red collar. And this is what he does with his victims. So, there's a lot to this, but let's focus. We're focusing, for this part, we're focusing on this idea of a dead woman or a sleeping woman or a beast of burden, and it's a light, it's white, and it's represented as a sea, or it can be represented as like a mother or a dead woman or a beast of burden like a horse or a cow. Quite often, sometimes, again, I've said in past videos, it could be like a cow giving milk. So it's like this white sea of light. And it's sort of still. It's the sea. So I've said this in past videos, light does not move. And I've provided playlists as well with other videos where, referencing other people's videos that explain it much better than I can. The fact that light doesn't move, molecules that help make it so we can see light, that they move. So the sea of light is still. So that's this idea that's shining through here with Hiram Abiff trying to capture the sea of light and crystallize it in this single form forever. He wants to defeat death. He doesn't like death. is really at the core of a lot of that. We see it here with Dr. Freeze. He doesn't want his wife to die, so he cryogenically freezes her. We see it with Humbert Humbert in Lolita. He wants to keep his young lover, Lolita, a little 12-year-old girl forever. So I'm trying to give you an idea of the psychology behind these people. They don't want to grow up. They don't want to grow old. They don't want. When it comes to, it's like this. It's really just Peter Pan's syndrome. I know it's not syndrome. Mentality. Really, it's going off the charts. Crazy. Like they want to be little kids running around in some forever happy town with other little kids and just doing awful things. It's what it seems to be pointing to, at the very bottom of this mindset that I'm seeing peeking through in these stories. So again, this is sort of exploring the darker side of human nature, what the devil really wants, what like the darker side of the human being wants, what your survival mind wants. I think one side wants total control and another side wants just a total playground. Nothing can ever get hurt. If you can't have total control, then make it so that you don't need total control. So maybe, I don't know, I'm just playing around with some ideas right now. It's this finding a balance between those two. Sorry, I have this bug hanging around me. But it does seem like the mindset I'm seeing jumping out is this, I want to say juxtaposition, or this swinging violently back and forth between wanting total control and or wanting a world where you're just free to do whatever and there are no consequences except the ones that you desire, and it's just a big playground, and it's just which I guess one could make the other, one could be the other. It's strange. And let's go back to, again, John the Elder. I'm sorry, I'm blathering on and on. Revelations of John the Elder. On the east, 3 gates. On the north, 3 gates. On the south, 3 gates. And on the west, 3 gates. The angel explains to John that this city, this golden cube, is bride of Jesus Christ. So I see this pattern emerging, this idea of the golden cube, this idea of trapping, crystallizing forces of nature, life and death, woman, females, trapping them in this crystallized form, quite often like a little girl, like something around the age of 12, forever and ever. Like the little girl that never grows up. Just, hi, Daddy. Whatever you want, Daddy. Okay, I love you, Daddy. Like that. That's what they want. Daddy. It's gross. It's really gross. Anyway, but that's what I'm seeing peeking out of these stories. The psychology, at least. It's rearing its ugly head and telling me exactly what it is. And I'm trying to remember if there was any more I wanted to add in. I think that's it for now. I just wanted to point that out. I think that's really funny that there's... It stood on 12 oxen, 3 facing north, 3 facing west, 3 facing south, and 3 facing east. The sea was set on them, and all their rear parts were inward. all their rear parts were inward. You could take that to mean they were all female, because females' parts, are inward. Or you could just take it to mean that they were all facing outward and their rear parts were facing inward. But this is an interesting little read. I'll try to get to the end of it. Hi, buddy. All right. I'm going to end this one.